Alright everyone, yesterday was literally worse than the first 9/11 there, back in 2001. Bunch of terrorists invaded a congressional office and occupied it. They got detained, thankfully, and they need to spend about the next 20-25 years in the hole. They should spend the next 2 years in solitary, without legal counsel readily available, no fucking contact with anyone, drive them crazy for a while, and then cart them off to the Hooskow for 20 years on terrorism charges. Oh wait. These were HIV activists, and it was Kevin McCarthy's office. So nothing will be done. These individuals will be booked. They'll probably be turned loose immediately. They're not going to go to the hole. They're not going to be punished particularly at all. They'll get a simple trespass fine, something like that. Maybe if one of them shouted too loud, public nuisance. Okay, we gave you a week in the county jail. I just wanted to point out the hypocrisy here. It's 9/11, supposedly the most important day in U.S. history. Way more than anything that happened in 1776 or the 1860s. Fuck that whole World War II thing. 9/11 is the end-all, be-all of U.S. holidays. It's basically a goddamn celebration at this point. Supposedly the most monumental holiday of the entire year. Most American day. The day that George W. began rubbing his greedy hands together, thinking about all the oil and other goods that he could possibly pocket. We left Afghanistan because the opium market dried up due to the arriving of fentanyl, by the way, but nobody wants to talk about that, so shh. Anyway, there was an insurrection. I saw several individuals invade a congressional office and then link arms and sit there on the floor chanting slogans. Supposedly, that's a felony. We know this from the J6 prosecutions. You didn't need to break a window. You didn't need to break anyone's bones. You didn't need to do really anything at all. In fact, even people who didn't enter the Capitol building at all ended up getting with felony charges stacked against them. All you had to do is stand there. All you had to do was be in D.C. on that day and have the wrong political views. If you spoke out in support of the protests that turned into a riot on J6, you get hit with felony charges. If you were there, felony. If you went in the building, felony. If you didn't go in, well, probably still a felony. If you talked about it, felony. If you said anything in praise of it afterwards, apparently a felony. I've been told that D.C. is such a sacred cow and such a fucking special snowflake that at this point, even being in D.C. makes you legally on the ropes, because if you do or say anything wrong, clearly it's an act of insurrection. But I don't think that I'll see these people charged with such a thing now, will I? Nor will their political advocates, of which there are many, probably be, considered under the 14th Amendment, incapable of continuing to hold or seek any office. It's double standards. The hypocrisy is quite sheer. This was literally worse than the first 9/11. All I see, I'm having flashbacks. As a millennial, I'm a kid, I'm watching TV, in the fucking school, because that was the time in which the 9/11 attacks happened, and I'm just going completely mad. The whole world is ending. At least that's what CNN is telling me. And it gets sent home early. It was nice to have a day off from school, but it's like, people did overreact to it. But I was told that was the worst thing ever. Well, I'm having flashbacks now. It's 9/11, and you've got the House leader, not just a regular congressional office, so not AOC, who probably wasn't hunkered down in a different building, shaking in fear during this particular insurrection. Kevin McCarthy, the literal Speaker of the House, his office, by the way, I'm not exactly sure how they accomplished this, gets invaded by a bunch of so-called activists saying, well, you need to continue the federal program to fund PEP. I actually kind of agree with them. When you look at the reduction in AIDS cases as the result of prophylaxis, yeah, that's one thing that actually has paid off. They actually have a point, politically speaking. Oh wait, am I allowed to utter that? Does that make me an insurrection supporter because I think that they actually have a noble goal in mind? Probably does. Also probably alienates part of my audience that for some odd reason wants people to get AIDS. I don't know. I don't agree with that myself. I'm being glib deliberately right now. It's humorous without being humorous. It's one of those instances where the story is funny for all of the wrong reasons. It's the hypocrisy, the sheer hypocrisy of the coverage, or lack of coverage, you may have noticed, of this particular event the other day on a major national holiday. I mean, it's bigger than Christmas and started several wars. Nobody ever went to war over what color nose Santa Claus had, you will probably reckon. It's a major day of remembrance and solemnity and doing what the fuck the government tells you, because it obviously always has your best interests in mind. And then the congressional office is breached. The Speaker of the House's own office, and you can see the office workers there basically rolling their eyes. It's a little bit like the reaction of a lot of the people that were there on J6. They didn't seem to have a problem with the rioters, now did they? But they still are guilty of felony charges. You intended to overthrow the government by stealing Nancy Pelosi's lectern. And that's clearly that was in your head at the time. And so 7-8 years in the Hooskow ought to cool your heels a little bit in that cell. Anyway, I'll hold my breath and see how long it is before these people are released upon their own recognizance with like a $10 bail and face mild charges, if any whatsoever. Supposedly, we now have a much higher threshold as far as the pain that can be imparted legally on anyone who does anything untoward anywhere in the vicinity of D.C. It won't be applied to these individuals, though. Maybe they'll throw one of them under the bus because he stuck gum under Kevin McCarthy's desk, and so that's clearly a terroristic act. Kevin saw the gum, and he thought it might be a plastic explosive or a biohazard, and so we're levying terrorism charges against you. Unless they decide to make an example of someone to pretend to be even-handed, it's just going to be a bunch of Portland-esque baloney in which nobody faces anything at all. Okay, you broke into the office and you had your fun for 10 minutes. Quite clearly you weren't a threat, though. You're just misguided, my poor boy. Here, we're going to make you do community service for 20 hours or something like that. The hypocrisy is sheer, and it's goddamn laughable. That's about all. Peace out.